There's one word that describes that for me, and I call it fervous. But I think the foundation for navigating that complexity is always positivity, if you ask me. I think what's a little bit the issue with Scrum is that it has many misimplementations. And that year of studying to become a history teacher, that gave me the energy to make the next step in my product career. As soon as your device starts running off the conveyor belt in mass production, there is no way back anymore.
Moin from Hamburg and welcome to yet another episode of Produktmenschen, the podcast that meets the people behind our products. I'm your host Tobias Freudenreich, co-founder of Hey Clarity and product leadership coach. If you've listened to the previous episodes of this season, you'll know that intuition has already taken us to some fascinating places. Marty Kagan, Martin Eriksson and Francesca Cortesi each brought their very own distinct perspective to the conversation. But I don't think of these episodes as repeating the same question. I think of them as slowly circling a complex idea from different sides. And today's guest opens up yet another angle, one I've been especially curious to explore. So I won't keep you any longer. I hope you enjoy this conversation just as much as I did.
Hi, I'm Sean Russell.
I'm Arne Kittler.
And I'm Tobias Freudenreich.
Together, we are Hey Clarity. We help company leaders build strong product organizations. Find out how we can help you at hey-clarity.com. And now, enjoy today's episode.
Today's guest is one of those rare product people who combine sharp thinking with a genuine big heart, and who can talk about hardware, IoT, and value streams with the same warmth and passion that most of us reserve for talking about our favorite vacation spots. I first met him when I had the pleasure to coach him a couple of years ago, and already back then it was plain obvious. He's someone who brings empathy, clarity, confidence, and joy into every room he walks into, be it virtually or physically. For more than 15 years, he's navigated some of the most complex product landscapes you can imagine. Hardware, software, firmware, regulations, supply chains, energy systems, you name it. And he's still one of the humblest person I know, which already makes him a minor miracle in nowadays worlds. Today, he's the founder of Discovery Doctors, a product discovery coach, a longtime PO trainer, a former product leader in IoT and energy, and a person whose very first LinkedIn post wasn't about an impressive achievement, but a charity fundraiser. That tells you pretty much everything about his sense of ethics and responsibility. I'm really happy to have you here today. Welcome to the show, Kai Stevens.
Wow, thank you so much, Tobias. That's the nicest introduction I've ever had. Yeah, thanks.
Well deserved, I'd say.
Thank you.
You have the unfair advantage. You are the first guest who had the chance to listen to an episode of this season and is prepared for what's coming now. So you already know that we started this season with a few sentence completions. Are you ready for a couple of quick sentence completions where it's all about thinking fast?
Yes, I heard the episode with Marty, but to be honest, I forgot most of the sentences again, so it's still a surprise.
Yeah, and it's different sentences.
Oh, different sentences. That is really a surprise. Cool.
The biggest difference between hardware product management and software product management is?
Long timelines.
Product ethics to me means?
Respecting everybody in the room.
The bravest decision I made in my career was?
The bravest, good question. That's a hard one to answer on the spot. I find it difficult to answer, to be honest, because if once you have done it, I don't look back and say, wow, that was a brave decision, what I did back then, right?
That again tells a lot about your personality, but...
Yeah, I really find that difficult.
Maybe a decision you struggled with before you took it? That could be an indicator that it was kind of brave.
Yeah, I've always felt uncomfortable being in the center of the attention. I already had it as a child. If I go back to my childhood, so in a sense, that's always something that I struggled with. So whenever there are opportunities to speak at a product tank in Hamburg, for example,
random example,
there's always a voice in me that says, why should you do that, right? Why should you go there in the spotlight and with the risk of I don't know what? And I guess what I'm proud of is that over time I learned to cherish that voice instead of pushing it away. So I now do these things. That voice is still there, and that will always be there because that's my inner child, how I'm wired. But I kind of learned to embrace it. And I was thinking this morning, there's one word that describes that for me, and I call it fervous. Nervous in a fun way, right? Fervous, yes. I want to introduce this new term for people who hesitate taking a leap into something that makes them really nervous. Yeah, because the moment that I learned in my brains to associate these nerves with fun, that was the moment where I could flip the button. And despite the nerves that are always there, take the opportunity and then enjoy it.
That's wonderful. That's a wonderful story already. So thanks for sharing that. And it reminds me a lot of a famous study in psychology where they had a group of, I think it was kids or teenagers, and they splitted the group in half, and they should give a little presentation on stage. And to everyone who was nervous, they said in the one group just the moment before they entered the stage, they said, "Oh, you are nervous. You are a bit scared because of the stage and the light and so on. That's normal, right? You don't have to worry about that." And the other half, they said, "Oh, wow, I can see your excitement. You are very excited to go on stage, right?" Yeah, guess what the outcome was?
Yeah, exactly.
Second group was way better performing on stage, way more confident.
And I find it truly impressive what the mind can do, right? So if you wire nerves to something negative, then it taps into your fears, right? Your fear system.
Yeah.
But if you learn to wire nerves to something exciting, something positive, then you tap into a totally different system, right? That helps you take that leap. I would say, yeah.
Yep. I will put in the show notes one of my favorite articles from my friend Sean Russell about how to change your attention in these kind of moments. Like, for example, when you're nervous, it probably doesn't help to be focused on the one stakeholder who is always shaking their heads and checking their iPhone. So changing your attention in these situations can also help a lot. You'll find the link in the show notes. Must not forget about that. Let's go back to the sentence completions. And I'm a bit surprised that you struggled answering that one, because I would have expected that you all of a sudden say leaving the full-time employment behind and being a freelancer now. That was the bravest decision.
Yeah, but it was quite a natural thing that happened, right? So I left Tado last year. And it was kind of a natural moment to start my own. I already had a business, right? I've been part of Scrum facilitators in the Netherlands. But over the years, I drifted away from Scrum. I still want to say thank you to Scrum, because for me, in my career, Scrum has laid the foundation of a deep understanding of the Agile principles. Yet, especially in the very complex product domain where I've drifted away from that. So I decided to found a new company that's more oriented on the craft of product management, in whatever framework you like to use. That can still be Scrum, if you ask me, but doesn't need to be, right? It can be any system. So it felt really natural when I knew I was leaving Tado to not just jump on the next bandwagon again. Yet still in the current market situation and also how things are in the Netherlands. I'll spare you the details around that. There's some tax regulation stuff, nasty stuff, but boring stuff. But still, it impacted the position of freelancers in the Netherlands quite heavily. And I started to look for my first assignment right when that happened. That was the beginning of this year. So in that sense, it was, I have a wife and 3 kids, especially the 3 kids and a house with a mortgage, etc. Right? It's quite a leap that you're making. But obviously I had a plan B, right? If I would not land an assignment in time, I would go back in full-time employment somewhere. So I did think things through. But it was quite natural to make that step. Also because of the realization that even in a permanent employment, as long as you work in a scale-up environment like Tado, right? What certainty does that really give you?
Yeah.
Right? The bubble can burst, and you can be in a situation where you have to change position again, like happened to me last year.
I mean, we've seen that a lot in tech over the last 2 years, I'd say. Yeah. Unfortunately, but I still have hope that the development will flip again and we see a big trend of, like, I remember that just from one day to the other, like before, we've been crazily busy with finding talents we could hire and searching globally for those talents and hiring people from all around the globe and spending crazy amounts of money for that. And the other day, people got fired. So that's it's really crazy how drastically that flipped from one day to the other.
But I like your positive attitude there. And I also believe that this is always a fluctuation in the market, just like recessions, right, in the economy. But it can be a multiple year process, right? So it could be a bit tougher for some years, and then it probably goes up again.
Absolutely. So in 10 years, speaking about the future, product discovery will
still exist.
If I were an IoT device, I'd probably be
if I were an IoT device, I would be a device that has all the answers to the many questions my kids ask every day.
So Alexa.
Yes, they already figured out how that works.
Yeah. Okay. A recent moment that made me smile was, I mean, you're smiling right now, but maybe before the recording.
Seeing with my team at FedEx, we had a recent evaluation with my team. I started my first, since I started my business, I do some small assignments, but my first big assignment is with FedEx, where I'm an interim product manager.
Known from the movie Castaway, for those who remember.
Exactly, yes. We every now and then we discuss Wilson, right? Yeah. Wilson is the ball that that Nicolas Cage is talking. Yeah, exactly. And we sometimes joke we should bring him back as some kind of mascot or something. But yeah. So when I arrived at FedEx, there was a clear need for product discovery in a certain area. I will not go into the contents; that will take too long. And that's why they asked me, because I'm heavily oriented on product discovery, right? And it was very much needed in this area, and they also needed some help to learn how to do that. So I basically walked in with my toolkit of experience, and then you have the hopes that unfolds in a positive way, right? And that starts with getting your team along. So we had a newly formed team. I was would become the product manager. There was a UX designer, UX researcher, a business analyst, and later on also developers would join. And from my time at Tado, I was pretty confident about the way I would do it. Working with Theresa's opportunity solution trees and the whole process around it. So I introduced that there. But you always have to see how things play out, especially in a corporate environment like FedEx, right? That's probably not how they are used to doing it.
Speaking about a fast-moving startup environment.
Exactly, right? Yes, yeah. But that went surprisingly well. And that's probably also why I like my assignment at FedEx so much, because it was received so well, and we also see it working even in a corporate environment. And that's so exciting. And we had a recent evaluation. You asked what put a smile on my face. We had a recent evaluation with the team. and everybody gave back how much they valued this way of working, how they not only saw it work for the business, but how individual people in the team also deeply enjoyed the way we're working. And that was maybe even more rewarding for me. See that if you help people learn to work this way, that they actually find even more joy in the work that they're doing.
Yeah, I guess from how I know you so far, that's something that motivates you the most, right? When everybody in the team, when this momentum is there and everybody feels connected, and you're someone who really connects people, right?
Yeah, that's important to me. And if you can combine that with making a real impact to a problem, to solving a problem that will help people and make then your customers also smile, that's a perfect picture.
Yeah, absolutely. I only know you smiling, so I was asking myself, is it that you wake up in a happy mood always, or is there something that instantly tells you it's going to be a good day, or how do you start your day? I envision you wake up and you have a smile on your face, but...
No, that would not be very human, right? So I don't wake up always with a smile on my face, in all honesty, right? There are also bad days, and there are also days that life is a little bit tougher. But in general, I think it's a good attitude to look through a positive pair of glasses to life in general, and also to your work. Regardless how difficult it is, I've been in quite some difficult situations at work. But I think the foundation for navigating that complexity is always positivity, if you ask me. So I guess that's how I'm wired. I don't really think about it. So it's not that I intentionally do something and then that happens. I think that's just me.
So it's not that you think about, okay, this is the attitude I want to bring to my team, and therefore I wear that mask all day when I'm in the office, and when you come home, you're the sad clown.
No, no, it's just who I am, right? It's not that it's not a strategy. I can be myself, and then that has upsides. It also, I guess, has some downsides. So.
Yeah. So, Kai, now that we broke the ice, I want to address the elephant in the room. You already mentioned it right away. After looking at your profile, I see that there's one thing we need to talk about, and that's your at least previous obsession with Scrum. I was wondering if you are the kind of person Marty Kagan might have in mind when he talks or rants about the danger of process people.
Maybe we should ask Marty. You can look at my resume, and I invite him for a short talk, and then he can make his opinion. But
I guess CSPO1 and CSPO2 might trigger already some controversial debate.
Yeah. So my honest opinion about that, I think for a while I've been more on the process side with Scrum. So I see his point, right? I think what went a bit wrong with Scrum is that we got obsessed with learning Scrum, which is nice. But if you're a product manager, it's still good to understand Scrum, but it's actually way more important that you learn product management, that you learn how to apply product discovery, that you learn to develop this product sense that Marty was talking about. So in that sense, I'm fully with him. And if I look in the mirror, in my early days, I recognized that I was also a bit obsessed with how to run the perfect sprint review, for example. Yeah. And there is still value in that, right? Because it can make a whole difference if you run a sprint review badly, as in we just demo the work and then we applaud. Yeah. Versus a interactive session with your stakeholders where you look at the product increment and where you facilitate learning in that session. Yeah. And that, again, is product management, right? So I think what's a little bit the issue with Scrum is that it has many misimplementations. And we have been a bit over-obsessed by, hey, as long as I know how Scrum works, then we're good, right? So we send all our product owners to a Scrum class, 2 days, and then they can tell that they are a product manager.
Yeah, and they just understood the process, how to organize product delivery, and they didn't learn anything about product management.
Yes. And I think that the second problem with Scrum is that it's a lightweight framework that's not too suitable to implement at scale. Yet,
they're safe.
Yet what happened in the hype, right, is that the whole corporate world went Scrum because everybody had to do Scrum.
Yeah.
And then you get things like Safe or really weird Scrum implementation or own cooked thingy. And what you then typically see in the org chart is that the product owner is not at the strategic level where you would like to see a product manager.
Yeah.
And that's also an observation that I share with Marty, is that many product owners are actually backlog managers, taking orders from the business, right? Ticket writers, or maybe a proxy in between, at least, right?
In the best case, requirement engineers, maybe. But not really responsible for the outcome of the work of that team. And what I observe, I don't know what it is in the Netherlands, but I pretty much think it's comparable. I think the Agile community didn't help itself to achieve what they initially wanted to achieve. The idea of Agile software development isn't that we tick boxes in a process, and it's also not about people being happy. It is about shipping value to customers in small increments fast and learn from that. It's basically, when I have to explain it to senior managers who need to be convinced of the value of Agile processes, I always explain it as a risk management method, because you don't have that risk of wasting all your effort because you only release software after 2 years of development, but you're going to slice that down and you're going to ship increments and you're going to learn from that, and therefore you don't have to risk your entire investment. And that's basically the idea. It's coming from a business perspective, and not from a new workplace idea. And that's what was kind of made out of it. And what I realize when I see new teams in my work is that we completely forgot as an industry that when young people are coming into their first jobs, that they just get to see Agile as being, that's how we work. They don't know why we work that way. They don't know about the purpose of a stand-up, of a review, of a retro, of a refinement. And then they just get to see, okay, this is the activities we do. And when we did all these activities, we can go home. And there's too many Agile coaches out there who understand their jobs as just ticking the boxes. Like, I prepared a retro, we had a retro. Doesn't matter if the retro changed anything, but the idea of a retro is to have actionable items, and that we follow up on those, and that we improve our ways of working and stuff. So I think the entire idea got lost in the process, so to say, and people just focus on, okay, these are the things I can tick the boxes.
Yeah, I agree. And it's good that you mentioned the new generation coming, right? Because we kind of grew with it, right? When it started to emerge. That's when I was starting my career, I guess. So I grew with it. And yeah, I think regardless if you work with Scrum or something else, you should begin from the underlying principles. So you should somehow allow this next generation to first learn the Agile principles before you confront them with any kind of framework, right? Yeah. Because if you master the principles, the framework doesn't matter anymore. And I honestly don't care if I work in a sprint or if I work in a Kanban mechanism or whatever, because I can trust that I understand the underlying principles.
Yeah, and when you work perfectly Scrum by the book, but you don't ship value at least once a month, let's say, in software, hopefully faster than that. But I met teams who said, yeah, we are very agile. And then you ask, okay, what's the last time you shipped to production? Yeah, we only do that once a year.
Yeah.
Okay, that's basically not the idea of Agile. You might still have a perfect Scrum process, but the idea what it should deliver completely lost.
Yeah.
So before we get lost, I would want to go back in time. And if I'm not mistaken, you grew up in the beautiful part Limburg in the Netherlands.
Yeah, that's correct.
When you think about your childhood, what comes to mind first?
Yeah, happiness. Just I had a really, really nice childhood. I'm coming from a family of 4. I'm the second child in the family. So that
We
means
have something in common.
Nice. Yeah. And on my mother's side, we had a very large family with a lot of uncles and aunts. And I honestly remember my childhood as a very warm and also issue-free stage of life. Yeah.
That sounds great. That sounds like the childhood everyone want to have, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember an early moment when fairness or responsibility or ethics first became visible to you? Because I feel that's something you value a lot.
Yeah, responsibility. You can go very far back in time. I think I was 7 years old. I had 2 younger sisters, and my youngest sister, she is, I think, 7 years younger than I am.
I misunderstood. I thought 4 includes your parents.
No.
Okay, I only have one. I only have one brother.
All right. Yeah, yeah, a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Wow.
I have one older brother and 2 younger sisters.
Wow. Okay.
And I think what I really value about the way my parents raised me is that they gave me responsibility on a very early age. Of course, within a confined, safe space, I would say, right? But when I was 7, my younger sister was just born. She was really still a baby. And my parents would go to our neighbors across the street. Again, they would not go to the other side of town, but there would not be a nanny in the house. And this was the time that there was no mobile phone. There was no WhatsApp where you can send a quick text message. We just had a fixed phone line with the number of our neighbors written on a note next to it.
Yep. The number of the house. Right?
Yeah.
Was not the person. You could ring a house.
Yeah. Oh, wasn't how it worked in the Netherlands? You had a phone number, right? So
I mean, it was one telephone for the entire house.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
So
yeah. Correct.
that's like-
Yes. Exactly. So there was just one phone for the entire house, and I remember my sister, which was still a baby, waking up, and she started to cry. But instead of ringing my parents straight away, my brother and we would get up, we would make a bottle of milk, give her the milk, and put her back to bed.
Wow.
And then my parents would get home and say, well, how did it go? I said, well, she was awake for a moment, but we gave her the bottle and she went back to sleep. And now having my own kids, right, I even realized, that was quite an early moment in my life where I learned to take responsibility. So that's maybe one very concrete example.
Wow. And what would you say, which values from your upbringing still guide you today?
Yeah, I think that taking that responsibility, another value, I think, is being who you are, being unique in your own way and being totally...
Be yourself.
Yeah, be yourself. Yes, I think my parents also gave us that. Yeah, and take the chances you get, right? Just go for it. That's another one, I would say.
Would you say there was something you had to unlearn from your childhood?
Yeah, I think we touched upon that. I don't think that's something that is really something that I was taught in how my parents raised me, but that feeling from my childhood of I'd rather not be in the center of the attention.
Yeah.
As my career grew, I had to, as I mentioned, unlearn that, go to the fervous state.
Yeah.
So that I mentally could take certain steps in my career and also in my personal life, I would say.
Because as a product manager, you're quite often at the center of things, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, center of gravity of decision making and stuff. Yeah. You mentioned your family. How were decisions made in your family? Can you recall that? Was it more intuitively, or was it more logical? Or was it just intransparent? It just...
I think a mix of both. I think more intuitively. But collaborative, I think. So I think it was always as a family and not that my parents would decide everything.
So you sat together as a family to take decisions?
Yeah, I don't remember that literally, but that's how I feel when I reflect back on that time.
Yeah, sounds great. So let's go a bit further in your life and have a look at your career. When I look at your CV, it looks intentional and linear. And I was wondering, because every CV kind of looks like intentional and linear. In hindsight, we connect the dots, right?
Yeah.
But did it feel like this from the inside?
Yeah, I partially, yes. It was during my studies. I kind of did a study. It was called Communication and Multimedia Design. I think you have a similar thing in Germany. Which basically is a very broad study. So I learned how to be a camera guy. I learned how to code. I learned how to design. And I learned a lot about communication and marketing.
Sounds like you learned everything you need as a product manager, right? Besides
exactly, that's a great asset for. In hindsight, it's a great asset for, and I think I still benefit from that.
That was at Zuid on university, or how do you pronounce it?
Yes, Zuid University. It's like a Hochschule.
Yeah,
so
University of Applied Sciences.
Yeah, exactly. I was looking for the English word. Thanks. But the pitfall of such a study is that you need to be intrinsically motivated to become really good at one of these things. Right? Otherwise, you will just be average or below average, right?
Yeah.
So I think after the second year or so, it's very important during such a study that you develop that passion for one of these aspects, that you start intentionally choosing the right modules, because from the third year onwards, you can kind of mix and match your curriculum, and that you pave that path towards a specialization.
Yeah.
And I guess everybody did that, right? So my fellow students, some went into development, some went into design, and also quite a few went into product management, I must say. But I didn't know Agile back then. I didn't know modern product management, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that I thought during my studies, I'm going to become a product manager. But what I soon realized is, yes, I like to make a good design. I like to code, but I'm not a mathematician. So it's not my talent to code. It takes me way more effort and energy than a more talented person, I would say.
To the younger ones, there was a time where we had to code by writing code instead of prompting.
Yes. Exactly.
It was a time before vibe coding.
Yes. And in that time, it was when we were still taught ASP, right? .NET. Yeah. And I liked it every now and then, but I also got really frustrated when I couldn't figure it out, right? Yeah. So I realized if I have to do this for the rest of my career, I will probably eat my keyboard or something. So I soon knew, no, it's not going to be development. I'm a very also quite creative guy, so I could have imagined a design career. But in the end, I realized that it all starts with the why behind every product or service that's being coded or being designed. And that's what truly fascinated me. So I intentionally chose, for example, also my internships to be more towards, I didn't even call it product management back then, but more towards strategy. I did my final thesis around the future of multimedia at an online travel community. And back then they were still selling space to upload pictures. And I basically did a tour through the most famous agencies in the Netherlands, tried to speak with all the gurus, and I kind of shaped a recommendation for the future. Number one, that was in 2008. Number one was forget about your business model, find a new one, please, because not so long from now, there will be cloud storage and the people are not going to pay for placing 10 pictures on a website anymore. And the second one, reverse your strategy from desktop to mobile first, because not so long from now, it was in the time that the first iPhone was launched, of course. Not so long in the future, we expect that people are primarily looking at their mobile devices. Of course, with the knowledge of today, right, it's obvious, right? I think this is already very old news, but still sometimes when I read back that thing, right, I was like, oh, that's what really made me passionate, right? Looking into the future, like we're discussing AI today, we don't really know how it will develop, right? So you try to look in the future and develop a strategy on how to anticipate on these developments in technology. And back then that was cloud storage and mobile devices becoming faster and smarter, right? And today it's AI that we try to anticipate.
Heard about that.
Yeah, exactly.
But is that something you'd say you have a talent for, like seeing these trends and thinking about, okay, what will be possible in the future and how might that influence the way we work and the products we build? Or is that something you learned and had to learn?
Yeah, I think a mix of the two, right? I think it's of interest to me, right? I just like to look into the future and to think of what does innovation mean. But ultimately, what drives me is to find solutions for problems that hinder people in their everyday lives, right? So it's not about the technology or the innovation. But what truly drives me and what I noticed very early in my studies is how cool is it if you can find a solution to a problem that's worth solving. Yeah.
Sounds like the perfect motivation to become a product manager to me.
Yes. Yet when I don't know how long you want to go into this topic of did I know where I want to go to? Did I know that I want to become a product manager? I think after 2 years in the work field or so, I had this pivotal moment where I was missing the human connection in my daily work. So I really had kind of identity crisis is a little bit too heavy, right? But I was really reflecting, is this what I want to do the rest of my life, right? Just thinking about commerce, about making money with digital applications. And I actually did a part-time study to become a history teacher for a year.
Ah, wow.
I learned everything about the Romans and the Greeks. And
that's not on your LinkedIn
I
profile.
passed all my exams. No, it's no longer relevant because I stopped it after a year. Because I realized it would be 3 more years of really, really hard work running a study next to my employment as well. So I was kind of working 3.5 days to get enough cash in. I was then in school 2 days, so that was already 5.5 days, and then I still had to study, right, for my exams. So it was basically 7 days, days a week.
Was the time you've been at Easy Apps?
Yeah, exactly. And Easy Apps was the company behind a back then famous travel community in the Netherlands.
Pronounce.
Yes, waar ben jij.nu? So
I would have never guessed based on how you write it.
We had a German variant that was called Wo bist du jetzt?
Okay,
so basically, you could share with your home front if you were backpacking where you were and share some pictures.
So where are you now or currently? Yeah.
But it was before Facebook, right? So it was a different time. When I reflect on that, I think I didn't discover the human aspect of product back then yet. It was a very small startup. I had my team, right? But it was like one team that I was working with. It was actually a very small environment. And I think that kind of made me miss the human interactions.
Yeah.
And that year of studying to become a history teacher, that gave me the energy to make the next step in my product career, because I realized, hey, I was also in front of the classroom, right? So I also was there in a classroom with 30 young students in front of me.
Kind of on stage.
And I realized every job has its downsides. I love kids, don't get me wrong, but I have respect, my wife is a teacher. I have a lot of respect for teachers. because there's a lot of pressure on your shoulder as well as a teacher. I think I could have become a teacher, but I was already educated to be something else, and it made me realize, hey, let's go for this, because everything has its up and down sides. And at the same time, I took some next steps in my product career, and that brought me way more rewards in terms of collaboration with other people, starting to train other people in the craft of product management, etc. Yeah. So I'm still a teacher today, but then within the area of product. Yeah. So I think I found kind of the ideal combination that works for me.
Yeah, you are the discovery doctor today, so you could have studied medicine as well, right?
Exactly.
So you have the painkillers for discovery.
I brought you some today. Yes.
Wonderful. You brought me painkillers?
No, it's not. it's not painkillers. It's if you take the analogy of a doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, in medicine, you can do two things: you can cure or you can prevent.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And basically, when you need a cure, you're already too late. Right. And that's how I like to approach my services to the teams that I work with. I always start from the vantage point: you're not sick.
Yeah.
But you can tap into a potential that makes you even more successful if you learn the craft of product discovery, and in particular continuous discovery. So I find it a way more positive approach to talk about bringing vitamins than a medicine, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So that's why we came with the term value vitamins.
Yeah.
It's really easy, Tobias. You just take one at breakfast on every working day, and that will deliver you great outcomes. That's it.
Wow. I think it's sold.
I'm absolutely kidding, of course. It's just a nice gimmick that matched the brand name.
Yeah.
But in a sense, there is a link to what I believe in, right? So another aspect of a vitamin is that it will only have an effect if you make it a routine.
Yes.
If you just take it one day and then you don't take it for the next 2 weeks, it has absolutely no effect.
Yep.
But if you learn to take a vitamin every day at breakfast, you still need to do the work yourself, but the vitamin will actually give you a little bit of extra to prevent falling sick.
That's how I understood your analogy. First, like every morning at breakfast, I have to learn one little thing more, and I thought it's more in this 1% improvement every day idea. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We have to make these things a routine.
Yeah.
Like there's so many teams who do one successful discovery sprint and then forget about it for the rest of the year, basically. And that's, I think you follow Teresa Torres a lot in your work. You mentioned her already. And there it's all about making it a continuous habit.
Yeah, I'm obviously heavily inspired by her when I talk about habits, right? And I not just because I read her book, also because I saw it work during my time at Tado. And now again at FedEx, right? So it's really nice after the first few months that you see it becoming a habit. And then it becomes a super powerful mechanism.
Yep. Then you have to visit Product at Heart. We're going to have Teresa Torres again.
Yeah,
tickets
buy a ticket.
Are on sale. So advertisement block done. So when you think about your career and you started at Easy Apps, you've been at Enrise, you've been at QB, Eneco.
Yes, so QB was like a venture of Eneco.
Okay.
Where it was fully independent of Eneco when I joined QB, and there we developed a smart thermostat that was mainly successful on the Dutch market.
Yep. And then you went to the competitor Tado, who was mainly successful on the entire European market.
Exactly.
And I was wondering which of these environments shaped your thinking the most?
I will say Tado, because I definitely think that was the environment where I had the pleasure, and that's no offense to all the other former colleagues from the other companies at all. But when I joined Tado, they had the money to invest in the right people, right? So in the end, it's all about people, well, of course, money. You need the money to hire these people. But in the end, it's all about people. Even after 15 years in the profession, I still cannot do it without the other people in the room, the other product managers, the product leaders, the talented designers, the talented engineers. And I think at Tado, I had the pleasure to work with a very, very highly skilled team. And that helped me again to learn a lot of things for myself as well.
So, and Tado as well as QB then before, that's in the IoT field. Was that like, but you started in software, right? So was it kind of a conscious decision to step from software into the hardware side of things?
No, not really. Before joining QB, I was working at Enrise, which was more of an agency, specialized in complex, tailor-made systems, mainly complex back-end layers. What I really liked was complex work. What I, after some time, missed was the long-term commitment to making a single product a success, because in an agency, you come and at some point you leave again, right?
Yeah.
And usually the leaving was at a point where I didn't feel ready to disembark from driving that strategy forwards together with the client.
Yeah.
But then the contract ends or whatever. So I really wanted to work for a product organization. And then QB came on my path. But it was not that I was looking for an IoT company. That just what I was looking for was a complex product environment. Well, with hardware and IoT, I can tell you get complexity. So that made me very enthusiastic from the beginning. But it was also a little bit of, how you say it, random luck that I kind of
it
got
just
in
happened.
there and,
so serendipity or
exactly.
Call it. So if you briefly describe to the software product managers, what is the challenge with hardware devices?
Two things. One I already touched upon really quickly is daily releases. You can forget about it in hardware. Weekly releases. You can forget about it in hardware. It's a fact that in hardware, a iteration, let's call it iteration, just takes a long time because you need to go through a physical process. It's not a digital process. It's a physical process where a MCAT engineer, a industrial designer, and all kinds of different people need to wrap their heads around the pure science of making a hardware product. And once that is done, you need to figure out how can you actually build it. So you need to develop the tooling for in the factory. Once you have the tooling, you can actually build your first batch of prototypes. And I think what's really important to realize is that we often refer to Tesla, right? How you can do that way more rapidly. But I dare to say that most hardware companies are not Tesla, right? So they still have a manufacturer in China or in Eastern Europe or whatever.
Most of them
right?
don't own the factory where the product gets built. Yeah.
Yes. That means that you have to ship your prototypes. And more than once, there was a delay. Customs decided that they did not trust the package and they just kept it at the Munich airport for 4 weeks. And then you were just waiting to receive the prototypes, right? Because until you have them in your hands, you cannot learn. So that's the first challenge.
Which kind of gets a bit better with 3D printing, I guess, because you can build prototypes yourself, at least to some degree.
Yes, but to some degree.
It's not
in my experience
exactly the mass
quickly.
product.
So for first rounds of discovery, that works really well. That you can explain to the participants of your test, hey, this is not a real device, and but then rather soon you cannot even run that in a field test or something, right? Or a pilot because it just will break. So, but in the very early stage, that can help you. So you need to be clever. And especially in the early stage, you need to try to learn fast, because as soon as you start the bigger efforts, you're risking a lot of time and money to waste if you don't validate your assumptions properly before that moment. The second pain point with hardware, and I think especially connected hardware, where the hardware is also as an IoT device connected to the cloud and exposed in a mobile app, is what I call once means forever. As soon as your device starts running off the conveyor belt in mass production, there is no way back anymore. It either means inventory that's never sold, right? So then you have physical products lying in a warehouse, and if you don't sell them, you're probably bankrupt as a medium-sized company. And if you sell it, but it turns out to be the wrong thing, you have to support crap in the field for a decade or so.
Yeah.
I always like the example of Tone, the first thermostat that I worked on, where when I joined, we were about to launch the second generation with high hopes for innovation. The Netherlands was in the middle of the start of the energy transition. We're talking about recommending people to transition to heat pumps, etc. And we had lots of ideas of cool features that we could display on the thermostat. However, when you launch a second generation, 99% of your user base is still on the first generation, which rapidly ran out of disk space and memory.
Yeah.
So all these nice feature ideas we could not really move forwards with, because we had this constraint of the hardware specifications of the first generation.
Yeah.
So then you can make workarounds, you can expose features only on the second generation, but every workaround you come up with leads to more support cases, more maintenance costs, etc. So yeah, that's also a big complication if you develop hardware, if you ask me.
Yeah, and on the other way around, I guess you need to be as cost efficient as possible, so you would not invest into more memory and more advanced processors and stuff.
Exactly.
Because it would be more or less a waste of money at the time being, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's tricky, I can imagine. Another thing I find pretty tricky in hardware when I think about it is that nowadays you ship IoT devices, right? So connected devices, which means you have to provide the software platform as well. And that's like, it's no longer that you sell a hardware product and then it's sold and out of your hands. You have to continuously maintain it, and you also have continuous costs, like ongoing costs to provide the infrastructure so that the hardware device is working. And therefore, I mean, it's not a surprise that many hardware companies are searching for recurring revenues, like some subscription models. And we see some things that might make sense, and we see some crazy things, like in the car industry. I heard there was one manufacturer, I don't remember which brand it was, it doesn't matter. They wanted to charge for CarPlay.
Yeah.
Like you need a monthly subscription to use CarPlay.
Yeah.
Or adaptive light, you need which changes in the curves, right? You need to have a subscription in order to unlock that.
Yeah.
And for sure you can think of that as being crazy in terms of how many years do we have to wait until we get the standard braking power in our cars for free? And if we want to have better brakes, we have to pay some fee or whatnot. And I mean, it's to some degree, it is already reality, right? So electric vehicles having big batteries, but you need to unlock the additional capacity while you pay to move around a heavy battery already. On your energy bill, so to say. It makes me think there's a few paradigms that are changing. Like the hardware I'm not really the owner of hardware anymore. Like I'm a big fan of Sonos, but the first generation, they decided at one point that they are not going to support it anymore.
Yeah.
And then basically your hardware product becomes useless.
Yeah.
How do you think about these developments, and what do you think we will see in the future there?
Yeah. So at the core of this question is obviously money, right? And if you look at investments and how recurring revenue is valued versus hardware sales, it's fully understandable that connected hardware companies are looking for models where you can generate recurring revenue. Yeah. Because I don't know exactly, but I think it's 30 times, your valuation becomes 30 times higher on recurring revenue than on hardware revenue. So there is at the core, that's the reason why I think all the connected hardware companies are looking for recurring business models. Yet you have to be really careful there. You gave the example of a car that starts charging for CarPlay, a monthly fee. But I dare to say that has become like a hygiene factor if you buy a new car these days, right? You want your phone to easily connect to the media system of your car. So I have strong doubts if that model will survive. So there are a few factors. You have to look at the competition, right? Yeah. If all your competitors offer it as a freemium, just as part of the hardware product that you buy, you can forget about creating a recurring business model around it. Yeah. So at the core, you really have to innovate, and you cannot stick with what you invented 10 years ago, right? Because a few years later, that might have been commoditized. Yeah. So being a hardware company with a recurring business model means you need to optimize for innovation constantly. You need to be constantly ahead of the curve. When we launched, when Tone was launched, it was before I joined QB back then, but it was a business model that people paid a monthly fee for controlling the thermostat on their mobile phone. Yeah, we had thousands of paying subscribers. Yeah, right. That was innovation back then. That was a game changer. Yeah. These days, when I go on holiday, I have this pet feeder where I put the food for my cat in. And during the holiday, I can press a button somewhere in Spain on the Canary Islands. I can press a button to give my cat in Limburg his food, right? Yeah. Of course, it's also automated with a schedule, but I can at least check my phone and see, oh yeah, he got his food, right? So I'm good there. So every device is connected these days on your phone. Yeah, it's commoditized. So it's what is a healthy recurring business model for connected hardware is constantly shifting. And that can be difficult because if your product grows, you also build legacy. And the more legacy you build, the more you hamper your innovation power, basically, right? Mm-hmm. And I see that sometimes as a struggle that companies have, is that the ability to innovate lowers over time, but the need for innovation, if you want to maintain such a model, is absolutely there.
And what would you say, because, the overarching theme is intuition for this season of the podcast. Yeah. What's the role of intuition in context of innovation? Would you say innovation relies on intuition, or is it more like a structured process?
No, it's definitely not a structured process, because innovation, what is innovation at its core? It's doing the unimaginable, right? Mm-hmm. If you, through a structured process, can define that, is probably not innovation enough. So the biggest innovations were things that you could not ask a person on the street. You might remember these interviews in the 90s where they asked about, would you like a mobile phone? And everyone said, no, this big thing in my pocket. And, I already have a phone at home. I don't know why you need to call while I'm on my bicycle. Yeah. So the biggest innovations are things that people don't need yet today, but that will change the world. But then again, right, there can be a process that helps you to structure innovation. So I think I would think it's a mix of both.
Mm-hmm. Can you remember in your career a moment where you kind of had that feeling, I know something, but I cannot prove it already with the data at hand?
Maybe I'm a bad innovator because I cannot really give a straight, immediate answer. No, I don't really recall such a moment. No.
So you feel like most of the decisions you made as a product manager were based on data instead of a leap of faith?
No, it's always a combination. I must say. But you always try to anticipate based on evidence that you have around the needs, right? So you try to understand the market. I've been in the energy sector for 8 years. And already from year one onwards, people were shouting that the energy transition was starting. We would all change to heat pumps next year.
Yeah.
And every year that was next year. So how do you sense when is the right moment to make a product dedicated to heat pumps, for example, which we did at Tado?
Yeah.
And up to today, that product that we built, the Heat Pump Optimizer, is a really nice product. But up to today, it's not clear if the market is really ready for it or not.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not at the company anymore, so I don't know how developments are today, how that went in the last months. But that, I guess, is an example where your product sense, as Marty called it, right, kind of combined with the market figures you have and the anecdotes from talking to customers and experts in the market, that gives you the feeling, yes, this at least has a good chance of succeeding. So let's be the first in the market and take a little bit of risk of being too early, but then we are ahead of the competition, right? I think that's the consideration that you're making.
Yeah, but that's really an interesting point you're making there, because I feel like market timing, like when do I launch my product, that's something you cannot really find data for that, right? So it's like if you are way too early, you might fail.
Yeah.
If you're a little bit too early, you might be ahead of competition.
Yeah.
And if you are too late, you're also running into trouble.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So you cannot rely on data completely, right? There's information, right? Is anybody else doing it already?
Yeah, sure.
If we talk to professional installers, are they talking about it? Or if we mention the topic, they just ignore it.
Yeah.
So you can get data.
Yeah, you can try to predict some trends and stuff. But I had the Apple Newton in mind, right? So product which was just launched way too early. The market wasn't ready for it. 10 years later, it works.
Yeah.
Right? So,
exactly. Yeah, so it's a combination of data and your intuition that makes you decide. And I think that's something that I really liked about Tado is that in the end it was up to management, right? Which routes we would take. And I think Tado was a company where we really wanted to be the front runner in the energy transition. With all the risks involved, that drove our decisions. And even if this product would fail, I think from that perspective, from that bold vision, it was still the right decision because it shows that you are the front runner in the market. Yeah. But that comes with risk, right? That comes with risk that there is a product that you launched that was not completely the right timing, was a little bit too early.
That is a perfect segue to one of the messages some guests from season 1 left on my answering machine, which I wanted to play to you and hear your thought.
Hi, my name is Dominic Joost, and my question for you is, how do you distinguish between a bold intuitive leap and reckless overconfidence?
Oh, wow. Thanks, Dominic.
Probably an easy one.
Yeah. I would like to start with people. Don't decide individually, right? But bring different perspectives. So what we're questioning here is, do we actually have enough evidence to decide this with confidence and not with conviction, right? Yeah. Conviction means I believe this works. Confidence means we have actual evidence that shows us that it will work. But in product, you never have 100% evidence, right? So, and then why do I first start with people is that to make sense of this trade-off, how much evidence do we have? What risk are we taking? What opportunity do we miss if we don't do it? That requires a conversation amongst different perspectives and different disciplines, is my experience. So if you have the right people in the room, and you discuss the dilemma, you inspect the evidence that you have, you discuss the opportunity, you agree on the risk that you would take if you would decide to move forward despite maybe a lack of evidence, then I would not call that recklessness. I would call that a strategic decision that you have made as a team after evaluating carefully from different perspectives. An example of recklessness is that I will not go into too much detail because I don't want to shame any person in a podcast. But I have been in situations where people came with the argument to do a big bet based on, I've been so many years in the industry, I know this works. Yeah, and that's what I call recklessness, right? Then your ego got so big that you believe that without any real evidence, you can take such a risk, ultimately risking the salary of your colleagues as well, right? Because if it turns out wrong and it hits the company in a bad way, it will have consequences.
And when you are high up in the hierarchy, people might just follow what you say. I see that in the tech industry a lot because of these flat hierarchies. Leaders oftentimes underestimate the weight of their words. In hindsight would say, but I just had that idea. I didn't say you have to build it. You could have said something that we don't have evidence or you need to be careful and you also need to listen to your people, right?
Yeah. I think leadership plays an incredible role in answering this question properly. I've also been in situations where there are 3 scenarios on the table. You have a team of professionals chewing on these scenarios for like 2 weeks or so. They run validations, they run experiments, they come back to the boardroom, they share their conclusions and bring a recommendation to go for scenario 3, and the CEO says, okay, it's scenario 1.
What do you do in these kinds of situations?
Well, what did I do and what do I do today is maybe slightly different, because as you grow in your career, you learn to deal with these situations.
So like in user interviews, I want to learn story-based from your past experience.
Yes.
So what did you do?
What did we do back then? It is a really long time ago. Yeah, I think in the end, in that case, we ended up doing the scenario 1 that the CEO wanted, and it in the end turned out not to work. So I didn't, to reflect on that situation, with my knowledge and experience of today, I would have expected me to respond maybe differently in that situation. It was not a situation where I was the primary person responsible. That was with somebody else, I have to say. But if it would happen to me again today, I would try to find an approach to buy time to get some more evidence in, either to prove myself wrong, right? Because that could also be. But in the end, I would try to show my intentions to bring risk within acceptable boundaries.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I find it very important what you just mentioned. Try to find evidence to prove that you are wrong. I see that we are doing that oftentimes wrong in when we do user testing. We learn the most when we learn that we are wrong.
Yeah.
So we should set up tests that are capable of telling us that we are wrong.
Yeah.
Right. We should try to put ourselves into a mindset that we are wrong, and now we want to learn about. Basically, we want to validate that we are wrong, because then we falsified our idea. But oftentimes we do user tests that should just confirm our thinking.
Yeah.
Right?
So I forget. Sorry, I forgot the name of the author. But the quote from this book that I read was, "Design like you're right and test like you're wrong." Right.
Yeah.
So set up your experiment from the conviction that your assumption is true.
Yeah.
But as soon as you go into execution mode with your experiment, switch to the other side. You're wrong, right? And let the data prove you're right. But until then, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Because otherwise your biases, right, they are just around the corner, right? And as soon as you get a little tiny inch of confirmation, your bias kicks in and you say, look there, we have the one data point.
Yeah, sure. And
it's true.
That's confirmation bias. And in the end, ultimately, I mean, that's what you learn when you work in science. You can own a theory is always valid until you falsified it. And therefore you can only try to falsify things, but you can never say that something is true. We are running, unfortunately, out of time. I could speak with you for a couple of more hours, but you have to get ready for the stage as well. So one last question on the topic of intuition, and then I would have a couple of questions around that topic of artificial intelligence. Everybody seems to speak about these days. But I was wondering, do you feel intuition plays a different role in hardware as compared to in software? Because you spoke about the timelines, the constraints, the dependencies, the risk, which is much higher in hardware. And in software, I could imagine I can from time to time take a judgment call, a leap of faith, trust my gut feeling, because I can fix it the other day again, right? So in hardware, that's trickier.
Yes. So maybe let me start with my definition of intuition in product. I don't think I gave that yet. For me, intuition does not mean sensing what's the right choice for your product just by sensing. For me, what intuition means is where is the boundary or the threshold where you have validated your assumptions enough, where you have lowered your risk enough to make a decision. Because as you will see also tonight in my presentation, the theory is really easy. You run experiments, with that you collect evidence, and with that evidence you lower your risk. And when your risk is low enough, you decide to build the product.
But nobody tells you what's low enough.
Exactly. There is no magic formula. And it doesn't matter if you're in hardware or software, nobody has the formula. In software, you also don't have the formula. The only thing in hardware is that there are more so-called one-way door decisions, which are irreversible and highly consequential. Once that product starts mass production, it's there forever. It's there to stay, as I mentioned. So there are just more consequential decisions that you make within the hardware space. But the intuition, the scale of intuition, as I explained it, is the same thing. You have to feel and observe what is the moment where you should make the decision. So in hardware, you often apply the A-lab principle, which means as late as possible. So you try to buy as much time as you can to validate your assumption before you build the hardware, but not too late, right? You should not start the development too late, because then your time to market becomes too long and your competitor is there first. So that's why we say as late, not infinite, but as late as possible, so that you can collect as much evidence as you possibly can. And then again, for me, intuition is a group effort. It's not an individual effort. And that's really important because intuition is a very tricky thing, right? So if you take intuition from an individual perspective, it's easy to be misled that you know or that you feel it's the right thing, but you have not been challenged on it, right? And what I really liked about the process at Tado is that we had this joint effort, not only with our own leadership team. So we were on the group level with a group engineering manager, a design lead, and me as the group product manager. But we also had this with the other departments. So we had evaluation sessions with what we called the extended management team, which included the head of sales, the head of marketing, the head of PR. And in that group, we showed the evidence that we collected, let's say in the last week or the last 2 weeks. And then we had a discussion on, is this enough to make the call so that we can start development? Or do we feel we need to run another experiment? And by having the conversation, we shared a group intuition because nobody has that formula, right? The CEO also doesn't have the formula. So you can't go to management and ask them to give you the outcome of the formula. It's not there. So it's still intuition, but group intuition.
I love that. And also that definition of intuition, that it's at least at this point of product management, you can't have data. Like you
Yeah.
only know when I test too long, so that I have 100% of evidence. Let's imagine that would even be possible. Then you're way too slow.
Yeah.
And when you test too little, the risk is simply too big. And the sweet spot is always very different from time to time, right? It's not like you don't know where the 100% is. That makes it challenging. And you don't know if you need 80, 60 or 40% for the decision. But I think what really helps is that mental model you just mentioned quickly, that one-way door decision or two-way door decisions. So is it a decision we can go back to later on and we can fix it as we go? Or is it something we can only decide now and to have to live with the consequences forever?
Exactly.
Yeah. I guess in hardware that's even more important, but even in software, we have these kinds of decisions when we think about, I don't know, system architecture, stuff like that. There's decisions that have long-lasting consequences. So this artificial intelligence thing I recently heard about, I was wondering, I mean, we get to read a lot about what it does to software and how all software products are becoming intelligent and whatnot. All the interfaces will become conversational interfaces and all these things. What's the biggest shift AI is causing in the hardware product world right now?
That's a good question. I mean, in the entire product world, you see that AI is bringing new capabilities. So, for example, now at FedEx, we're looking into how AI can potentially help reduce complexity when shipping internationally, where you have to deal with a lot of regulations, right? And AI can play a really nice role there. In hardware, I think it's a big difference if you have connected hardware or non-connected hardware, right?
Yep.
And I think there's a great potential in connected hardware. I know Tado has now launched their AI subscription a few weeks ago. AI Assist, yes. Where AI is going to help you learn the patterns of your heating behavior and further optimize for more efficiency, right? I have to say I'm not one of the AI frontrunners in product. I consider myself far from an expert. So there are probably experts out there who have even more ideas of what you can do with AI. I'm personally taking AI on a as need basis in the work that I'm doing in my assignments. And then they're happily embrace it and dive deep into what that can do for that particular problem that I'm solving with my team. Yep. But I'm not in all broadness exploring the potential of AI, which some other people in the product community, I think, are very nicely doing.
And what's your view on product discovery? Like to pick up your brand's vocabulary, is AI more like a vitamin to product management and product discovery?
Yes, I think
or is
so.
It more
it's not like
a disease.
No, it's not a disease. I do think that we have to be careful. I also have a very talented UX researcher in my team, and if you want a critical view on AI, you should have him in your podcast. And I really like that he is critical to it, because there are a lot of elements that you should still double check if you let AI help you with your product discovery, right? So the real interpretation or observation of how a potential customer is responding to your idea, I still believe that's human work.
Yeah.
Yet if you already use an AI note taker, you'll be amazed by the conclusions that note taker will take for you, right? So I see it as a second person in the interview room that brings you additional insights that you might have missed. And that's something that we should all, I think, embrace and should be, as product managers, really happy with, because I truly believe that it helps you catch ideas or opportunities that you otherwise might have missed. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. There are areas where it can have tremendous impact, helping us and making us more efficient and more effective in the end. And there are areas where it's simply dangerous to use AI for this. And that's like, I'm very skeptical when I read all these posts on LinkedIn about synthetic user interviews. Because I know, like, one of the basic rules we learn when we start with user research is what users say is not what users do. And now it feels like there are many people out there who trust what AI thinks users would say, which is even one step further away from what users do. And then also, for sure, there are all these biases that training data is mainly contains the perspective of white Western men, and therefore does not represent your target group.
So going back to my team at FedEx, if I have to choose between Kevin, my UX researcher, or an AI telling me what to conclude from an interview, I would follow Kevin. Because he's trained to do that, and he's a human. So for me, having it as a note taker so that you can look at these notes and then interpret these notes, that's great. But at least today, I personally don't see AI replacing my UX researcher and just running the interviews and then giving me back the conclusions out of that.
So that's good news for Kevin.
I guess so.
What do you think about the future of the Scrum product owner role in AI-powered world? And now speaking about Scrum product owner, like by the definition.
So, unpopular opinion maybe, it's no different than from a product manager. AI will take away certain operational tasks, which creates more space for us to do the more complex product management tasks. And I think naturally that's what will happen with the product owner. I don't think the role will disappear, because as long as there are teams working with Scrum, there will be product owners. But I do think that AI will help to expose how to position that role correctly so that it becomes a real product manager and not a backlog manager.
Yeah, I guess that's what I had in mind with the question. Like, I always see the product owner is kind of a role that's clearly defined in the Scrum process and tells a lot about writing proper tickets, doing proper refinements, etc., etc. And a lot of this work, and every product manager needs to be a product owner as well to some degree, whereas not every product owner is also a product manager. So it's part of the product manager's job, so to say, making sure that there is work defined that the team, that the engineering team is working on, hopefully together with the engineering team.
Again, right. Then we go into like a semantic discussion of how the product owner role is intended. I know that in a lot of situations, that is how the role is implemented, right? It needs to take care of the requirements and make sure that the backlog is filled. If you read the Scrum guide carefully, it says that the product owner is responsible for maximizing the value of the work done by the team, by the Scrum team. And that's the flaw in Scrum, is that with that one sentence, product management is covered. Because how do you ensure that you maximize the value is by applying all the product management techniques and
which
craftsmanship,
are not described in
which
Scrum.
is not described in the Scrum guide, right? So that's how it's easily misinterpreted. What I had a lot of students in the product owner advanced class, and what I always hoped is that was the one takeaway after that class. Is not about how to apply Scrum well, but is this insight of, wow, I need to be a visionary. I need to be good at experimentation. I need to be able to understand my customers really well, et cetera, right? All these things that have nothing to do with writing the perfect user story, but that are the things that you need to do to be a good product manager in the end. And that for me was really rewarding, that you often saw people going home with that insight, like, oh, okay, it's nice, I understand the Scrum guide, but now I have to start reading those product management books, and I need to go to some different trainings and conferences and educate myself.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you cannot be successful as a product owner.
Yeah. So 2 last questions. In one of your posts, and I read all your posts, you argue that product managers, from your observation, cannot say no because they lack the mandate to demand proper business cases from their stakeholders. And if you had 1 minute with a CEO, I was wondering, what single non-negotiable structural change would you demand to empower product managers to be true value optimizers? So if you could have this miracle wand to change one thing in the structure of companies.
In doubt, run an experiment. So if you're in doubt, if the CEO is in doubt, he should not say no and not do it.
Mm-hmm.
He should propose, hey, nice idea, but where is the evidence? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
If the CEO asks the product manager something to put on their roadmap and do, but the product manager raises good arguments or concerns, he might also ask, where is the evidence?
Yeah.
I've been in that position where I asked the senior leadership member, where is the evidence? And then that was ignored, right?
Yeah.
For me, that's as a structural, cultural thing in leadership, where you embrace that opinions don't matter too much, but you should look at the evidence that's on the table to validate the hypothesis and see if it's a good idea or not. And if you want to empower your teams, when you get as a CEO in the situation that your direct report is questioning you, if your idea is good, then don't be stepped on your toes.
Yeah.
But say, all right, what experiment can we define together to learn this in a week? I give you a week to prove me wrong or to prove me right.
Yeah.
Let's define or design an experiment together that we both believe in.
Yeah. And as a precondition, that requires leaders who embrace to be challenged.
Exactly.
Which I think is a leadership skill. That's necessary to become a good leader. Listen to your people and invite them to challenge you. Last question, super easy one. What do you hope people will say about your impact once you get retired?
I don't know. I mean, which people? Do the people that were happy with a product that I built in 2017 with my team still say that when I retire in, what will it be, 30 years? It doesn't really matter to me because I get reward from today, right? When I see a happy customer today, when I would look back at my career, I will not look so much at what people will say then at that moment to me. But I hope to look back at a career where I kept getting back at points where I created a significant impact to people, to put a smile on their face with a nice product, and hopefully also a little bit to the world.
Thank you for being here, Kai. Thank you for sharing all your learnings, your journey, your insight, your view on intuition. It was a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor. Thanks.
That was episode 4 of Produktmenschen Season 2. I hope you enjoyed the conversation and you took some inspiring thoughts away. If you want to help this tiny little podcast, you can do so by sharing your feedback with me. I'm a product person and I'm always eager to learn and to improve. So feedback@produktmenschen.de is your email address to send feedback to me. If you want to do even more, you can help by spreading the word and recommending this podcast to your friends and colleagues or writing about it on social media. If you would subscribe in your favorite podcast app, leave a 5-star rating or even a review in your favorite podcast app, that would mean the world to me. And if you want to stay up to date, just sign up to the newsletter on produktmenschen.de. I hope you'll tune in for the next episode, and I'm looking forward to see you then.
This episode of the Produktmenschen podcast was proudly presented by Hey Clarity. We help company leaders build strong product organizations. Find out how we can help you at hey-clarity.com.